So, suffice to say, I'm happy with the sim. I'm going to disable the simulation thing for a minute. That way I don't accidentally lose the cache you see here stored on the timeline, that blue bar, before we actually get a chance to save it in a file cache. Now, here's a fun thing though. I'm not going to just save it as bgo.sc files. Not just like this, not all these packed pieces. Instead, I'm going to have it be a much smaller footprint rather. Let's just save the points, the rotations, and the pivots of the simulation. It'll be a lot less heavy, and it'll help us do the high-res replacement anyway. So let's make a new geometry node back out here in Object Land. And all we're going to do is let's bring in the sim. So I'll just say get sim, and get sim. I don't remember which standard I'm using right now. So let's go to sim out. Cool. There it is. Still got it. And there's a few things that we need. We need the position, which we already have. And then the only two other things we need are going to be stored in the so-called intrinsics. We need the 3x3 matrix called transform, which you'll remember from the first few rigids lessons. And we're going to need the pivot to know what it's rotating around. And that's really it. As far as placing the pieces, we'll also want to keep over here, in addition to the position, we're going to want to keep the velocity and the angular velocity so that we can do motion blur and whatnot when we come to render it. So that's about it. So I'm just going to say, let's store those two prim intrinsics. I'm going to make a new vector called pivot. And that's going to be equal to prim intrinsic from the 0th stream, the first one, pivot, which is the name of it, and the current point that we're iterating on. So we're basically just copying it. We're copying it into a regular point attribute here. What else do I want? I want to keep that 3x3 matrix. So you do a 3 at just to make a new 3x3 attribute matrix. And that's going to be called transform equals prim intrinsic. Oh, almost had it. There it is. 0 transform. And the same thing where we're going to do it for the current point number that we're on. So let's make sure that we got that. Sorry, I hit the mic there for a second. So excited. And we do. We have the transform here. Looks like it's right to me and that it's doing anything. And then we're not just getting a bunch of zeros. And let's see that we have our pivot. Same thing. We have data here. So good. So we've successfully stored that. We'll say store, pivot, and transform. Transform. Now, what else do we need? Well, not much else. So let's just move right on and delete all the other attributes, because the whole point of this is we're trying to save space. Saving space is pretty cool because that means we can send this to render farms online easier. We don't have to send like 100 megabytes per frame. We can just send 100 megabytes one time for all the geometry and then transform it into position for the rest of it. So we want to delete everything. Delete all the attributes, but not the ones that we actually need. So not the pivot that we just made, not transform, not angular velocity, not regular velocity, and not the name, because we're going to need that to actually do the replacement. So we should still have all those things, which is going to be a lot less data than before. Cool. Save that. We'll file cache this. In fact, we should go back into manual mode, go steal a file cache from before. We'll go grab this one. And this is going to be the first time, though, that we're going to do a actual frame ranged file cache. So I'm going to call this file cache simulation. Change this to say frame range. And we'll make this be RF start, RF end. RF start and RF end, of course, being the start number here and the end number here. You can see that there, 0.96. We're going to need to put the $F in here so that it actually is saving a frame numbered thing. And we'll still benefit from the 0 version and all other jazz. So let's just go here and let's actually scrape off all of the geometry. We only need the points. So we're just going to say delete geometry but keep the points. On this guy, put it back in the manual. So now we just have a bunch of points that have a few attributes on it. So it's super, super lightweight. So let's save that in here. And I'll actually put this in a separate folder as well. Put this in the sim area. So let's save.